Okay, number 41 here is by substitution. We're going to solve this system of equations. Now, the reason we use this word substitution is because we're going to take one of the variables in terms of the other and then substitute that into the other equation. So for example here, we have x equals 3y minus 2. So I'm going to take this 3y minus 2 and plug it in for x. That's the substitution. So I get y minus, and don't forget to put parentheses around this because it's minus all of this, and this is representing x. So I put all of that in there, and then that's going to equal 2. So when I do this, you have to remember to distribute that minus sign. I get y minus 3y plus 2 equals 2. Okay, let's combine the two terms with y in it. That gives me negative 2y. And then I have plus 2 equals 2. Now let's start to get the y all by itself on one side. So I'm going to subtract negative 2. And I have negative 2y equals 0. Now y is equal to 0. We can divide by negative 2. Y equals 0. We're not done yet because we need to find out what x is. So if I take this y equals 0 and I plug it in for y, in either equation, we'll find out what x is. So if I use, y equals 0, if I use this equation, I have 0 minus x equals 2. So negative x equals 2. Divide by negative 1, and I get x equals negative 2. If I were to use the other equation, I'd have x equals 3 times 0 minus 2, so x equals negative 2. Either way, I get the same value, and it doesn't matter which equation I plug back into. Okay, so my final answer is written as an ordered pair. X is negative 2, y is 0. And that's the answer right here. Okay, looking at number 42, where you're asked to do this problem by elimination. And the word elimination means that we're going to be eliminating one of the variables. The easiest one to eliminate here is the y. All I'd have to do is multiply by a negative 2. And looking ahead, you'll see that you'll get negative 2y. So that's going to match up with this 2y. When I add them, I'll get 0. Okay, but the trick is you have to remember to multiply everything inside this parentheses by the negative 2. So let's rewrite the equation. We get negative 2y plus 4x minus 2 equals negative 2. Okay, now let's add the two equations. And by adding them, you can see that the y will be eliminated and you'll only have x's left to deal with. When I add these two equations, this is 0. Then I get a single x. I had negative 3x and positive 4x. That makes a single x. And then I add 2 and negative 2. That gives me 0. So x equals 0. Now I take that x equals 0 and I plug it back into these equations. If I plug it in here, I have 2y minus 3 times 0 equals 2. This vanishes, this goes away. And I have 2y equals 2. Divide by 2, and I get y equals 1. Okay, so my final answer is an ordered pair where x is 0 and y is 1, and that's the final answer.